Tyler.
Okay, thank you all for coming out here tonight. Now, I believe the security of the nation is what the government's sole purpose is. They are supposed to provide us with an atmosphere and a climate to where you as the individual business person can get out there and grow your company and do your own thing without any government regulation or oversight. Now, unfortunately, men being what they are, greed and other things become a factor, and the government sometimes has to clamp down on certain industries. And we have seen that with Wall Street. We're seeing that now where they're trying to do some Wall Street reform. I don't so much object to some interference by the government because sometimes men do have to be kept in check. Now, our Constitution is very clear, like these other gentlemen have said. Our Constitution is basically in Article 1, it says that Congress is supposed to have a military that they field and that they recruit and that they provide for. And then providing the common defense for this country, we as individuals with liberty entrusted to us under the Constitution are supposed to be able to realize our own American dreams.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brooks Wicker.
Thank you. I want to thank the Tea Party for having us out here tonight and putting this on so that you folks can all see who we are and what we stand for.
You're Mike Brooks.
It's not on. Here we go. Can you hear me now? All right. I want to thank, first of all, the Tea Party for putting this forum on to give you folks a chance to see all of us and hear what our thoughts and where we stand. Like the other gentleman here, I agree that the #1 job of the government, particularly the federal government, is national defense. But it goes beyond just national defense. Our government has to keep us safe, but our government has other responsibilities as well. Our government, and there's a difference between national security and security. Our government is also responsible for providing security. When I say security, I'm talking about not just the military, but also police forces, fire departments, and air traffic control to keep the airplanes from flying into each other. So that's another very important aspect that our government is responsible for. Our government is responsible for the infrastructure of our country so that commerce can continue to be conducted in our country. If we don't have the infrastructure with the roadways, the dams for the rivers and the lakes so that we can have transportation and water systems, our whole country will not function. So our government must also provide for infrastructure. And unfortunately, we do have to have regulation. Regulation, however, should be structured the way the Constitution is structured. The Constitution does not tell our government what it must do for us. It tells our government what it cannot do to us. Regulation should be for consumer protection. The government has no business telling industry, private industry, how they will conduct their business. A large part of the recent financial debacle that we have experienced is because of government regulation and the government interfering in the way that our banking system operates. That's got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, our second question, and this time we will start with Mr. Hausman and continue through as we rotate the starting answer from the candidates. This question comes from Dan Blanchard, Louisville Grassroots Tea Party.
For a number of years, the Enumerated Powers Act, H.R. 450, has been introduced and has not progressed very far. It basically stipulates that it is to require Congress to specify the source of authority under the U.S. Constitution for the enactment of laws and other purposes. Would you sign on as a co-sponsor of this bill and actively fight for its passage? Why or why not? We'd like to begin with Mr. Lally, please.
In answer to that question, I would have to see the bill to know what I'm signing on to. I wouldn't put my name just on some bill that is talking about something I'm not really that familiar with. So I would have to see the bill to make a decision. But when you talk about the enumerated powers, and I think you're leaning more towards each piece of legislation has to be authorized through the Constitution. Is that basically what you're saying? Okay. Well, when you look at that, there's a lot of things that the federal government does that it's not in the Constitution. And like Brooks Wicker said, air traffic control, that's a federal agency. It's through the Federal Aviation Administration. I fly airplanes for a living. We have to have a single source of rules for the entire country. We can't, have rules for Kentucky, and then when I fly over Tennessee, they have their own rules. When I fly over Georgia, they have their own rules. So there are things that the investments that are very necessary to make commerce happen in this country. So until I can see that specific piece of legislation you're talking about, I can't really agree saying I would be a co-sponsor for it. But I do understand your concern that if it's not in the Constitution, why are we having so much encroachment by the government that is outside the Constitution? And I do appreciate where you're coming from on that.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks Wicker.